Hello, it's Onyx. Today I'm coming here to talk a little about blindness. So I will be answering a few questions. 1. What is your condition called and how do you see? I've got optic nerve hypoplasia. Basically means I was born with my optic nerve underdeveloped. Everyone with this condition sees differently, but for me personally I can see fairly well. I can't see details or things to far away or to close up. Also have a hard time with pictures. 2. How do you manage to use technology like a smartphone? Well, most technology has some type of screen reader. For me, I sometimes use VoiceOver, which reads everything on the screen, or most thing. I also use the zoom feature. I can also enlarge the text size on my device, that way I can read a bit easier. 3. What is the right way to guide someone who is blind? It all depends on the person. Definitely ask them if they need help and how to help them. Don't try to just grab them, cause yes, people actually do that. 4. How should I speak to someone who is blind? Like a normal person. It gets me really annoyed when someone will talk super slow and shout at me as if I can't hear them. I'm sorry to say, but yelling won't make me see you any better. Also, if you are asking a question, don't ask it to the person we are with instead of us. Also, a helpful thing is if you know our name, please use it when trying to get our attention. Also, stop asking weird personal questions. If you wouldn't ask it to a sighted person or non-disabled person in general, don't ask it to us, please. It's really weird. Now, I'm not saying don't ask questions, just don't ask anything that's none of your business and is personal. Alright, that's it. Bye bye besties, have a good day and take care of y'all selves.
Hi everyone, it's me, Lily Lovegood, and I'm going to be discussing my blindness and some commonly questions that people ask, and that will be the first one: what is your eye condition and can you see? So my eye condition is octave nerve atrophy, and it's basically a condition with your nerve in your brain. I don't really know much about it, but I do know that it's genetic. So basically it started from my mom's great grandmother, and then my mom has it, my older sister has it, and I have it. I do know that a lot of my aunts and cousins do have it as well. So like I said, it is genetic. This eye condition mostly happens in males, but in this case it was most commonly found in females in my family. I can see. I was able to see a lot more when I was younger, until maybe around the age of 9 or 10. That's when my vision started to go away little by little. I can see people and objects, but sometimes depending on the weather and stuff like that, it can be very difficult. I used to be able to read print, but now I use something called Braille, which leads me to my next question is, do I read Braille? Yes, I do read Braille. And basically Braille is just raised dots on a piece of paper. We use something called a Braille writer that kind of looks like an old-fashioned type machine that people use who can actually see. Another question that is mostly asked is, do you use a guide dog or a cane? Since I am not at age to get a guide dog, and I probably never will, I prefer using my cane. It is very easy for me. I have been using it ever since I was 3 years old. So yeah, I use a cane. Another common question is, can blind people pick out clothes? And like, if they can, how do they make it match? Well, it really depends. We have a lot of devices that we could use for that. We have something called a color identifier, which basically is a little box, and you turn it on and you push this button, and it basically scans the color, like the shirt or the pants or whatever you're showing, and it tells the color. So that's another way that we can match. Or we can just ask someone who is with us, like, does this match? Like, what color is this? Personally, for me, I kind of just have my outfits in a way where I know this and this match, so I'll just leave it in like a pair, so it'll be easier for me to pick out clothes. Another common question is how should you talk to a blind person and if you should help them? Well, you shouldn't talk to us like we're dumb because we are very capable of doing a lot of things that you sighted people can do, but it just takes us a little while to do it and we might need help. But please ask us before actually trying to help us, especially when it comes to crossing the street. Because there has been cases of people just grabbing someone who cannot see and pulling them along, and we A, might not feel comfortable, or B, might have not even needed help in the first place. So it's better to ask. And finally, for the last question, well, almost the second to last question, is how do you guide someone who is blind? It really depends on the person. You just put your arm out, we grab onto your elbow, and it's called sighted guide. And you just basically have the person who cannot see kind of walk behind you, and you just basically guide them to wherever they need to go. But make sure you're saying go left, go right, so that they know like what direction you are going in. And finally, the next question that is very popular is how should you help someone who is blind when they're eating? We use something called counterclock time. It's basically you'll put a plate of food in front of us and you'll grab our hand and you'll say chickens at 12 o'clock, macaroni and cheese is 6 o'clock, your roll is at 9 o'clock, and so on and so forth. That's basically how we can have a visual way of knowing where things are, and it helps us in a sense of knowing where everything is. So yeah, hope that this was very informative.
Hey everyone, this is Fuchsia. My eye condition is called retinopathy of prematurity, also known as ROP. I have no vision in my left eye whatsoever, but I do have vision in my right eye. I have light perception, and I can also see shadows. This is especially helpful if I am walking and there is a building or wall in front of me. However, in order for me to see it, it has to be really close. Anyway, I use a cane to go places. As for technology, I use something that is called VoiceOver, which is on most iPhones. Thanks to VoiceOver, I can do many things, such as send and receive text messages, read emails, watch YouTube, listen to audiobooks, play games, etc.
Hey guys, it is Aurora Weasley. Today I'm going to be answering questions that blind or visually impaired people get. And the first one is, what is your eye condition and can I see? So my condition is Leber's congenital amaurosis, which leads to me being visually impaired, and I can't see in the front of my face, so I always have to turn my head left or right to see. And yeah, sometimes it will stay the same for many years, or it would decrease or increase some of vision. And so that basically leads to the answer of I could see. And the next question is, how do you manage to use a technology like a cell phone? So I could either have my display in text size, which is a feature for accessibility and settings that can increase the text font in the phone. Then it would show much bigger depending how you want it. Or I could just use VoiceOver, which is a accessible technology resource that we could have on our phones, which is also for blind or visually impaired people to use. And like you could have it slow, fast, however you want it, and the accent. And my next common question is, do I use a guide dog? No, I don't use a guide dog. I have a cane. But in the future, I would like to use a guide dog when I'm like older, like maybe 16 or 18, because the age that you should get it or can get it is the age of 16 or 18. So that technically leads that I might have both when I'm older. So yeah. And the next question is, what is the right way to guide someone who's blind? So you could guide someone if they're blind is like telling them to grab them by telling them to grab you by either the shoulder, or hold on to your shoulder, or hold on to your wrist or your elbow. Then you guide them slowly, so you could be behind them and them in front of, and then they'll be behind you, you in front of them, and the cane is still sticking out in front of them. So we could have help from you and that cane that they're using. And yeah. And the next question is, how should I help someone who is blind while we are eating? So you could put a tray or food, like a plate in front of them, and you can grab their hand and you could say spaghetti at 9 o'clock, water at 12 o'clock, and chicken at 3 o'clock, and then napkin at 6 o'clock. So yeah, that's the questions that blind or visually impaired people get asked. I hope you guys enjoy this, and yeah.
Canny.
My eye condition is optic nerve hypoplasia. I'm totally blind. I use voiceover on my iPhone. When I'm outside, I use a cane to get around. The way you should guide a blind person is by having them hold onto your arm. Also, the way I pick out my clothes is by feel. I go by the different textures and designs that my clothes have since I can't see the colors of them.
Hello, my name is Nestor, and my eye condition is glaucoma. It is an eye condition that affects the optic nerve, preventing it from sending all the information that your eye picks up to the brain, and it limits my vision to light perception, a bit of color perception, and shape perception. And it does cause me to lose vision over time, but that can be stopped for a little bit with surgery. And I've had around 16 surgeries. I've had more surgeries than my age. It's kind of ridiculous, but not all of them are because of glaucoma. One of them is because of my high eye pressure. I've had around 5 to 6 cornea transplants, and I was way too young to remember most of the surgeries I've had. Most of my surgeries I had when I was born to when I was like maybe 2 years old. I can only remember maybe 3 to 4 surgeries now, which is good. And I do not have enough vision to where I can go without voiceover. I used to, but not anymore. So you will hear voiceover at the end of this audio recording, and I do not use a guide dog. I am not of age to use a guide dog. I do have a cane, and as soon as I can get a good guide dog, I definitely will, because you tell me which one's cooler, a stick or a dog. Okay, I'm gonna end this audio recording now, so voiceover's gonna talk.
Speech on. Replay. Fast. Done. Button.